You might have heard about the snake-headed monster Medusa, and more so about her slayer Perseus. But do you know the story that led to the saga? Hi, and welcome back to our channel, where today we're going to talk about Perseus, one of the most well-known mythical figures from ancient Greece. But before we dive deep into the story of the Medusa Slayer, make sure you like and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss out on our future uploads. Now, without further ado, let's get right into it. So Perseus was the child of Zeus and Danae, but his birth story isn't really a simple one. You see, Danae was the daughter of Acrisius, the king of Argos, who was once told by the oracle of Apollo that one of Danae's sons would kill him one day. To avoid the prophecy, Acrisius imprisoned his daughter in a bronze underground room, believing that she would never be able to marry, let alone have children. Her chamber was dark and had no doors, with the only opening being a tiny crack in the roof. But that was enough for Zeus, the supreme god of the Greeks, to pay Danae a visit. Spellbound by her beauty, the Greek god poured down into Danae's lap, transformed into a shower of golden rain that made her pregnant. Acrisius had no idea this had happened for 4 years, but one evening, when walking past Danae's room, he heard the cry of a young child from within, which led to the discovery of his daughter's marriage to Zeus. Enraged, Acrisius ordered the mother and child to be dumped into the sea in a chest, but it was not Zeus's wish for them to die. So the chest sailed safely to the island of Seriphus, where Dictys, the brother of Polydectes, the island's king, was fishing on the beach when he noticed the chest abandoned on the beach. He brought them to the king's palace. Polydectes knew he wanted Danae as his wife the moment he saw her. Nonetheless, Danae and Perseus remained on the island for many years. Perseus grew up believing Polydectes was a bad man and protected his mother from him. But one day, Polydectes devised a plan to kill him in order to prevent him from interfering with his plans to marry Danae. In Elis, Polydectes pretended to propose to Hippodamia, the daughter of Oenomaus, king of Pisa. Everyone was required to bring a horse as a contribution for the bride gift, as Hippodamia meant tamer of horses. Perseus was unaware of this custom, so he asked Polydectes to name the gift. He would not refuse it. Polydectes requested the head of Medusa, the only mortal Gorgon, whose stare turned mortal stone. In just a short time, Perseus had already spent days wandering in pursuit of the Gorgon's lair. Fortunately for him, the gods pitied him, and a tall woman and a young man wearing winged sandals appeared in front of him. They were Athena, the goddess, and Hermes, the messenger of gods. On their instruction, Perseus set out to find the 𝐥𝐤𝐤, the Gorgon sisters, who were supposed to point him in the right path. The 𝐥𝐤𝐤 were 3 gray-haired women who shared a single eye and a tooth and lived in a cave. When one of them was ready to hand over the eye and tooth to another, Perseus snatched them and blackmailed 𝐥𝐤𝐤 into assisting him. The 𝐥𝐤𝐤, having no choice but to oblige, advised Perseus that he should travel north and visit some nymphs. He did so and obtained a bag from the Hesperides nymphs to carefully contain Medusa's head. To make him invisible, Zeus gave him an adamantine sword and Hades' cap of darkness. He was given winged sandals by Hermes and a polished shield by Athena. It was then that he was ready to march towards the cave of the Gorgons. So with all the magical things at his hands, he traveled the country of the Gorgons, where he discovered them fast asleep in a cave. Perseus stood with his face turned away from the sleepers, looking at them via the reflection in his shining metal shield, having been told by his celestial guardians that anyone who stared at these strange sisters would be transformed into stone. Then, directed by Athena, he severed the Medusa's head and placed it in his bag. As soon as he did so, the winged horse of Pegasus sprung from Medusa's headless body and flew up into the sky. Now he fled quickly to avoid being pursued by the 2 sisters, and were still alive and had just woken from their sleep, hurried to take revenge on him for killing their sister. His invisibility and winged sandals came in help here, as he hid from the Gorgons and fled from land and water, far beyond the reach of the sisters. Drops of blood from the Medusa's head leaked from the bag as it flew over Libya's flaming plains. creating a flock of multicolored snakes that spread over the country. Blood droplets that landed in the Red Sea formed coral reefs. Perseus continued his flight until he arrived in Atlas's kingdom, where he pleaded for rest and shelter. But as Atlas guarded the Garden of Hesperides, where every tree bore golden fruit, he feared that the hero who had just killed the hideous Medusa would also destroy the dragon that guarded it and steal his wealth. As a result, he refused to provide the hero with the hospitality he needed. So, enraged by Atlas's rejection, Perseus reached into his bag and drew out the head of Medusa, holding it towards the king and turning him into a stone mountain. And not only this, the giant's beard and hair expanded into forests, shoulders, hands, and limbs grew into massive rocks, and the head grew into a rocky peak that reached into the clouds. Then Perseus continued his journey through Africa until he arrived at the land of the Ethiopians, ruled by the good but unfortunate king Cepheus. Andromeda, Cepheus's daughter, was chained to a rock on the edge of the sea, ready to be devoured by the sea monster Cetus, despite no fault of her own, and just because her mother Cassiopeia had previously boasted to be more beautiful than all the Nereids. Perseus fell in love with Andromeda at first sight, and made an agreement with her father that he would murder the monster and save his daughter, only in exchange for Cepheus promising Perseus Andromeda's hand in marriage. An agreement was made, and Perseus soared over the monster's head and killed it by plucking Medusa's head from the bag at the level of Cetus's eyes. Cepheus willingly gave Andromeda in marriage to Perseus after witnessing his heroism. Within a year, the couple gave birth to their first child, Perses, who became the ancestor of all future Persian monarchs. Perseus then left the Ethiopian monarch and returned to Seriphus, along with his lovely bride, to deliver Polydectes the gift he had requested. When he couldn't find his mother in his court and Polydectes refused to tell him where she was, Perseus drew Medusa's head from the bag to threaten him. Polydectes admitted to locking her in a dungeon shortly before his mouth and entire head turned to stone, after which Perseus moved on to rescue his mother. After doing so, he sent a messenger to his grandfather, notifying him that he wanted to return to Argos. However, Acrisius, fearful of the realization of the oracle's prophecy, left Argos and fled to the Pelasgian region. Ironically, after failing to find Acrisius at Argos, Perseus traveled to Larissa to compete in the athletic games hosted in memory of their late king Teutamides. There he threw the discus, and it struck an older man on the foot, killing him instantly. That old guy, as you may have guessed, was none other than Acrisius, and thus the prophecy was fulfilled. Following Acrisius's funeral rites, Perseus handed the Medusa's head to the goddess protector Athena, who placed it in the center of her shield. He was too ashamed to return to Argos and seek for the throne after burying Acrisius. And after a while, he founded Mycenae, where he and his wife Andromeda lived happily for many years, raising at least one daughter and 6 boys. Most of their descendants went on to become great monarchs, the most famous of whom was Hercules, their great-grandson and the most famous of all Greek heroes. As with demigods, after Perseus's mortal half passed away, he was later taken to the heavens and transformed into a constellation. Andromeda was then sent to the sky to shine beside his stars. And with this, we come to the end of this video. Let us know in the comments below your favorite character in this legend. Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, do not forget to like, share, and subscribe. We'll see you next time with more mythical stories. Until then, goodbye.